I arrived at elevation on a crisp morning, the air thin and cool at the top of the mountain. The retreat was serene, eerily so, nestled far away from the world, as if it were built to be isolated, far from prying eyes. A perfect escape, I thought, when the trolling on my body-positive posts had gotten unbearable. I was Margot, the influencer who preached self-love. Yet here I was, standing at the gates of a place promising to change my life. A week of transformation, they said. It sounded too good to be true, but I had to try. It was remote, sterile, like a luxury asylum. The staff, all in white uniforms, greeted me with bland smiles, and I was assigned a number, no name. That felt wrong, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was what I had been looking for. On my first day, I met the others, a group of plus-sized influencers, all struggling with the same thing: image, weight, public expectations. There was Kira, a sweet and anxious woman who couldn't seem to relax, and then there was Tanya, who kept a forced smile on her face as if she were afraid of being outed. We were all here for the same thing, an intense program of fasting, mindfulness, and metabolic conditioning. The food was tasteless protein bars, and the water was metallic, leaving a strange aftertaste. The worst part? We were under surveillance at all times, for our safety, they said. I shrugged off the unease. This was what I had come for, right? I posted my selfies to maintain the same inspiring image for my fans. I wrote under photo, Day 3 at elevation, detoxing like crazy, #transformation journey. But it wasn't long before I started noticing the cracks, the strange behavior of the staff, the cold, clinical atmosphere. Kira pulled me aside one night after dinner, her eyes wide with fear.
People have been disappearing. Did you notice?
She whispered. I laughed it off, saying,
They're sent home early. The ones who can't hit their weight loss milestones.
The next morning, I saw a woman crying during a weigh-in, her face twisted in despair. The following day, her room was scrubbed clean, as if she had never been there. The unease grew in my chest. The nights became worse. Every morning, I woke up groggy, dizzy, as if I hadn't slept at all. One day, I found a needle mark on my arm, hidden beneath the sleeve of my pajamas. I asked the staff, but they brushed it off as a routine hydration support. Something wasn't right, and my instincts screamed at me to leave, but I didn't know how. One night, during curfew, I hid in a cleaning closet, desperate for answers. I watched 2 staff members unload boxes labeled Protein Supply, Human Flavor. The logo matched the retreat's private brand of protein bars. I felt my stomach twist, the realization hitting me like a wave. Are they feeding us protein bars made of human meat? The next night, I broke into a locked storage room with Kira. What we found chilled me to my core. Sealed packages of protein bars, each labeled with a batch code and a photo ID attached. One of the photos was of the woman who had cried during the weigh-in. She was gone, processed into a bar. Kira screamed, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the photos. We were being used. The ones who failed weren't really sent home. They were killed, rendered, processed into the very bars we were eating. Before we could escape, we were caught. Dr. Rains, the founder of Elevation, emerged from the shadows. He was gaunt, his body a stark contrast to the morbidly obese man he once was. His eyes gleamed with something twisted and sinister. Fat is the disease, he said, his voice cold and calm. You influencers spread it, but now you nourish change. He didn't need to say more. I knew what was coming next. I woke up to the sound of humming machines, my body heavy and unresponsive. Kira lay unconscious beside me. I realized we were drugged, but maybe I was too fat to go down with one dose. My mind started racing. I took a quick scan of the room and realized it's set up like a surgery cabin. All the medical instruments were lying on the table right beside the bed. As one of the handlers walked past, I grabbed a scalpel from and hurriedly stabbed him in the neck. Blood sprayed all over my face and body, but I didn't have time to think. I dragged Kira with me through the dark halls, the sounds of alarms blaring in the distance. We made it to the exit somehow, barefoot, terrified but free. I didn't stop running until I reached the road. A week later, I was back online, hailed as a survivor. I couldn't talk about what had happened, not without risking my life, but the NDAs and mental trauma excuse worked perfectly. My follower count skyrocketed, and Elevation's protein bars flew off the shelves, selling out nationwide. But something was off, or maybe I'm just overthinking. I didn't expect much from my new school. Brightfield Academy was a place for the best and brightest, but it felt more like a prison where the inmates were polished with privilege, all perfect smiles and sharp edges. I wasn't like them. I wasn't thin, and I wasn't popular. I was Tessa, introverted, intelligent, and curvy. That last part made me a target. From day one, it was the same. Whispers, stares, and cruel notes left in my locker. Ever heard of portion control? Whale sighting in the gym. It was like the walls themselves were breathing judgment, and the girls, they were like a pack of wolves circling the weak, with me at the center. I tried to ignore it, but the isolation was suffocating. I spent my days dodging their mocking glances, trying to avoid the sting of their wounds, but the worst was always gym class. That day, after yet another round of taunting, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I found myself running to the nurse's office, tears threatening to fall. The office was dim, the air thick with the scent of herbs and something strangely soothing. Nurse Marrow was there, as always, soft-spoken and gentle. She never asked too many questions, never seemed to care about the details. She just knew how to make things feel quiet. I told her I couldn't take it anymore. She listened, nodding, her eyes soft with sympathy.
You need something to help,
she said in her calm voice.
These pills.
She reached into a drawer and handed me a small velvet pouch.
They're from the old country. They'll help with the weight. Give them a try.
I hesitated. Something in her eyes made me question it, but I was desperate. The pills tasted chalky, dry as if they were made from ash, but within hours, I felt different. My appetite vanished. The constant hunger that gnawed at me was replaced with a surge of energy. I felt light, almost euphoric. By the next day, the change was undeniable. The scale showed I'd lost 5 pounds. My classmates started noticing.
You look good,
they said, half mocking, half curious. It wasn't much, but it was something. I clutched the velvet pouch tightly in my hands, taking a pill every morning and every night. I told myself I would stop, but somehow I couldn't. It didn't take long for things to go wrong. My reflection became distorted. My face thinned unnaturally, my cheeks hollowing out as though something inside me was eating me alive. I tried to stop taking the pills, but every time I reached for the drawer where I kept them, the pouch was there, always refilled. One night, I looked in the mirror, and it wasn't me staring back. I was fading. My body felt wrong. Bruises appeared without reason, my skin sloughing off in flakes like sunburn. I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. The worst part? I couldn't even scream. When I opened my mouth, my voice cracked like a broken cassette tape. That's when I ran to Nurse Marrow.
I can't stop. Please help me.
I cried, my hands shaking. She looked at me with the same soft smile, but this time something darker lurked in her eyes.
You wanted to be seen, Tessa.
She said, her voice low, almost a whisper.
But you didn't want to be seen like that. I can show you how to disappear. I can make them never laugh at you again.
Marrow pulled out an old photograph. A girl, overweight, surrounded by classmates who mocked her. The caption read, Marrow, class of 79. It was her. She had been like me, and then she had disappeared.
They laughed at me too once, until I learned how to fade away. This school teaches you how to erase what they hate. I give you the tools.
Suddenly, everything clicked. I wasn't the first. She'd done this before. The pills weren't just for weight loss. They were part of something far more sinister. Nurse Marrow had been doling out pills to students for years. Some disappeared emotionally. Others disappeared entirely. I wanted to run, but my body was failing. I couldn't feel heat or cold anymore. I couldn't eat without vomiting. I was fading away, my body becoming a ghost, a shell. I stumbled back to the nurse's office, desperate to destroy the pouch, to stop it. But Marrow was there. She caught me, stronger than I expected. She pinned me down.
You wanted to be seen, but not like you were. This is better.
She whispered, her face contorted with something close to hunger.
This is beautiful.
With all the strength I had left, I headbutted her. I reached for the burner stove and tossed the velvet pouch into the flames. It hissed, the smoke dark and thick, swirling around us. Marrow's face contorted.
My masterpiece.
I don't know what happened after that. My world went black. When I woke up, I was in the hospital bed with my parents. They told me the cops arrested Nurse Marrow for giving me substances that messed with my physical and mental state. When I fainted in the office, she thought I died and was dragging me to the back. That's when our school janitor saw me and stopped Marrow. She ran away, leaving me unconscious, and the cops were called. Till today, I wonder where is she now? What is she doing? I just hope no other innocent life falls into her trap. I've always been bold, confident, unapologetic, an influencer who built my platform on being a proud, plus-sized woman in a world that wanted to silence me. But even I couldn't escape the trolls. They came for my body, my looks, my every post, and for a while, it felt like nothing I did could silence their hate. But then, the email came, and suddenly, it seemed like maybe everything I'd worked for was about to pay off. It was from Divine, a high-end fashion label known for its inclusive campaigns. They were launching a new line called Real Body, and they wanted me to be a part of it. Their message promised an exclusive retreat, a photo shoot unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I had to take it. This was it, my big break. I could already hear the voices in my head telling me how great it would be, how the retreat would give me a chance to prove everyone wrong. I wasn't prepared for what came next. I arrived at the mansion, a sprawling desert estate far from anyone and everyone. I was greeted with champagne, a warm smile, and a sleek, minimalist room that felt sterile, almost too perfect. The only thing that felt off was the contract I had to sign upon arrival. It forbade any outside contact during the retreat. They said it was for creative integrity. The first day was a whirlwind of fittings, glam, and photo shoots. Everyone was obsessed with making us look perfect. But something nagged at me. There were no mirrors, no reflective surfaces. The food was tiny portions of tasteless meals, barely enough to fill a stomach. When I asked about it, a staff member smiled and said, "We want to see your true hunger to show on film." I thought it was just part of the brand's vision for the shoot, so I let it go. But by day 3, I started feeling uneasy. The glamour faded quickly. The staff began to grow distant, colder. The atmosphere shifted. Something about it felt wrong, like we weren't the models here. We were the subjects of something darker. The stylists started to become abusive, yelling at us, pushing us harder. Every moment was more intense than the last, and they took our phones for creative focus, they said. But that wasn't all. During one of the shoots, I saw Lena, one of the other influencers, completely break down. She cried on set, unable to keep it together anymore. I watched in horror as she was led away by the staff, her face blotchy and red, her spirit clearly shattered. The next morning, Lena was gone. They said she had left the retreat early, but when I found bloodstains on her bed, I couldn't pretend it was just a coincidence. I tried to ignore the rising panic, but my suspicions grew stronger each day. During a forced empowerment walk through the desert, I noticed hidden cameras tucked into rocks, peeking out from the brush, following our every step. Something was off. That night, when everyone was asleep, I snuck into the editing room, hoping to find some answers. What I found wasn't what I expected, even in my worst nightmare. On one of the laptops, a live chat window was open, and there I was, on the screen, half naked, crying in a fitting room. I wasn't alone. The other women, too, were being humiliated in real time. Our vulnerabilities laid bare for an anonymous audience. The site was called True Form, a platform where viewers could pay to trigger humiliating commands, insults, food restrictions, and stress tests. It wasn't just a modeling shoot. It was an endurance game, a sick, twisted form of entertainment. That's when I realized the horrifying truth. We weren't here to be celebrated. We were here to be broken. And Lena hadn't left. She had collapsed during a shoot, a casualty of their twisted game, and they'd whisked her away, like she was nothing more than an expendable object. I knew I was trapped, but I wasn't going to play their game. The final night arrived and everything was set up for the big reveal, the moment they thought I'd crack. But instead of submitting, I turned the tables. I found my way into the control room and stole a live mic. I began streaming everything, every hidden camera, every vile moment, every piece of evidence. I broadcasted it to the world, hoping someone, anyone, would see it and help. I begged for the viewers to leak the truth, but the staff wasn't having it. They stormed the room and a struggle broke out. I fought back, grabbing a bottle of acid from a station they used to distress clothes and threw it into one of their faces. It wasn't enough to stop them, and they kept coming. I bolted to the control room, locked myself in, and grabbed a forgotten backup phone hidden in my boot. I started streaming everything, every file, every feed, Instagram Live. I exposed them all, the twisted fetishists who'd paid to watch us suffer, the handlers who tortured us, the sick game they'd played at our expense. A massive chaos erupted. The sirens started in the distance. My hands were shaking as I held the door, praying for the police to arrive before they could get through. On the live feed, I could see the other girls, terrified, some bloodied, some screaming, huddled in rooms behind two-way mirrors. And then, the stream cut off. A week later, the news broke. Underground fashion ring busted for torture exploitation. I was hailed as a hero, but the truth? The trauma? It was deeper than anyone knew. The police had arrived in time, but the damage had already been done. I sat in a hospital bed, bruised and exhausted, surrounded by reporters, cameras flashing. I smiled, knowing I'd won, at least on the surface. But when I looked in the mirror for the first time since escaping, the reflection wasn't what I expected. I was thinner, pale. The weight of what had happened had drained me in ways I couldn't explain. I picked up my lipstick and applied it slowly, staring at the woman in the mirror.
You're not content. You're fire,
I whispered to her.